Hi friends, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel, Sunset Bow Tarot. So today I am going to be doing a video that I've been very excited to do and very much looking forward to. I am going to be doing a comparison today of the first out of print edition of the Tyldwick Tarot with the new second reprint edition of the Tyldwick Tarot. As a lot of you may know, the Tyldwick is an incredibly special deck to me. It's a very personal deck to me. It's one of those decks that I'm so thrilled to own a copy of. I truly treasure it. A couple of years back, and again, a lot of you may be aware of this, the creator of the Tyldwick Tarot, whose name was Neil Lovell, passed away. And so it was really, really deeply tragic because he was an incredible artist and obviously had made a number of creations in addition to the Tyldwick Tarot that were really beloved by the tarot community. And, you know, his artistry and his incredible creativity is something that we all profoundly miss. His brother has taken over Neil's business since Neil passed away and went ahead and did a reprint of the Tyldwick Tarot. So there is a new second edition of it. It's back in print and available for purchase, which is something that's very, very exciting. And I know a lot of people were really thrilled to be able to get their hands on a copy of the second edition. And I personally purchased one again because this is one of my most beloved decks. It's great to have a backup copy. There were some cool things about the second edition that made me really want to check it out. The gilding is different, the card finish is different, the box is different. So I really wanted to go ahead and go through and talk through the differences and really take a close look at the cards side by side. I believe that there are some slight differences in coloration and things like that that folks will want to be aware of if they're interested in purchasing the second edition. So like I said, I've been really looking forward to doing this, seeing these two decks side by side and really making a close comparison of them. So just for administrative purposes, in this video, the first edition, again, which is out of print, no longer available unless you find it secondhand or on eBay or something like that. It will always be on the left, and the new second reprint edition, which is currently available, will be on the right. I will put a link down in the description box to the shop where this is currently being sold if you are interested in purchasing yourself a copy. I believe that it is still a limited edition run, even of this second reprint edition, so just something to be aware of. They may not be around for all that long. Hopefully Neil's brother will do another reprint if it ends up selling out, but we'll have to see. So, all right, let's go ahead and take a look at the two decks side by side. So the first thing you'll notice is from a packaging standpoint, the original first edition deck did come in a tuck box. You can see mine has gotten a little worn out. I recently did get a bag for this deck so that I could keep it in a bag as opposed to keeping it in the tuck box, and I've just been keeping the tuck box in storage so that it doesn't get too terribly mangled, because I have a tendency, as you can see, to completely destroy tuck boxes. But it did come in a tuck box, and it's a nice tuck box for sure, but obviously tuck boxes aren't my favorite way of storing a deck, and I don't tend to usually keep decks in them if I can get a bag for them instead or a different box. So that is the first edition packaging. The second edition is really nice box. It's a matte finish. It's a two-piece box. It's got the thumb notches to lift off the top and everything like that. And, you know, this is a lot more optimal packaging for me. So I generally prefer this kind of box. So this was a change that I was really happy to see that was made in the second edition. Now, right off the bat, you can see some differences. So the first thing is the second edition comes with this title card that has a lovely tribute to Neil that has been included in the second edition deck, a tribute to his memory. And, you know, again, this was an incredibly tragic loss. He was such an incredible artist, and it's really, really sad that, you know, we're not going to be seeing any more of his creations, but I am very grateful that his family has decided to carry on his work and keep his store going and keep his creations out there in the world. So I'm going to move this aside. The other thing you might notice, it might be a little hard to see, but it is easy for me to see here. Let me just, I'll try to hold up the decks side by side so that you can get a sense of this. The cardstock is a bit thicker on the second edition. You can see, if I hold them side by side here, that there is definitely some additional thickness to the second edition. And you can probably also see that the gilding is a significantly different color. And I actually really like it. I think it's beautiful. The original gilding is a gold gilding, and I believe actually that this was like a real gold leaf gilding. Like there is some gold, actual gold in this gilding, as I recall. I believe that that was the case. The second edition here has this beautiful coppery color gilding. It's still really gorgeous, and actually I love the color of it. I think it's really, really beautiful. So that is a nice change, I think. And yeah, you can also see that the cardstock on that second edition is definitely a bit thicker, and it certainly was printed on very different cardstock than the first edition. So if we take a close look at the cardstock here, the first edition cardstock was glossy. You can see how quite glossy it was. And you know, it is a thinner card. It's a very good quality card. I mean, it is glossy. It's not like mirror shiny glossy or anything like that. It's just a glossy card. I'd say it's still less glossy than, for example, one of the old Blue Angel decks, you know, when they had that really, really shiny lamination on them. But it is a glossy stock. It's a thinner card. The new edition is printed on a matte cardstock. It's a thicker card. I believe this is 350 GSM. That's what it feels like. So it's, you know, a 350 GSM matte, which I think these days is pretty standard for what we expect from an indie deck. This is a pretty typical card weight and finish that you would expect on an indie deck. So so it is really quite nice. And you know, definitely I would say that Neil's brother must have had his ear to the ground a little bit in terms of knowing what tarot readers are looking for nowadays in terms of a deck finish. I'd say, you know, most people nowadays do tend to prefer a matte cardstock, and a 350 GSM is a pretty standard weight that is still flexible and shuffleable, but quite still pretty thick and durable. So I really quite like the finish on the cards. Now you will notice that there is a definite coloration difference in these cards. It has definitely been, I'd say, saturation bumped up a bit and warmed up a bit almost. There is a kind of a browner, I'd say, cast to the new cards than there is on the old cards. And I'll go through them all one by one so that you can see the differences very clearly. This is actually part of why it took so long for me to actually film this. I got this deck like last week, but I was waiting for a nice sunny day so that I could do this comparison in natural light so that it would be very easy to see the coloration differences and see them pretty true to color on the screen, or at least as true to color as I can get under natural light. So, you know, similarly on the backs, again, it's the same pattern, but it's definitely been changed a bit. It's a little less distressed looking. I'd say that the pattern on the back is a bit clearer. And so, you know, there's definitely been just some overall changes to the images that, you know, they're not changes to the actual subject matter or specifics of the images, but they have been changes to make things a little different in coloration, and in the case of the backs, a little bit clearer, in my opinion. Now let's go ahead and walk through all of these cards side by side so you can get a really solid look at the differences between the two decks. And you know, you'll notice that the imagery itself is the same, but again, there is quite a significant difference in the coloration of the two. I can't say yet if I like one better than the other. They just look different. They're both beautiful, at least in this card. I'd say that neither one is sort of harder to see than the other one, really. But, you know, as we go through, we'll take a closer look and see how the differences look. So here is the Magician. And I love this deck so much, as you can see, and I didn't even talk about this, but the really special thing about this deck, and the thing that makes it, I think, completely unique among all decks I've ever seen in the tarot world, is that this deck is fully based on surroundings. There are no, well, there's one exception. There's one sort of ghostly looking image of a person in this deck. But for the most part, this entire deck is just vignettes of parts of a house. So sometimes they're interiors, sometimes they're gardens, fountains, you know, just different sort of architectural or outside kind of representations of different parts of a house. And it makes this deck almost feel like a portal to a place. And if you're the kind of person who loves antiques, who loves wandering around old houses, or getting tours of old houses, things like that, and I am absolutely that kind of person. That's one of my favorite things in the world. You will really like this deck. I personally love this deck, and I find that it brings you into the meaning of a card in an especially unique way, where you're getting these clues from your surroundings as far as what the card meaning is, and that aspect of it just makes it really special and unique and different. It's like no other deck I own and no other deck I've ever read with. So here's the Magician. Here's the High Priestess. You know, some of these cards, I think that you can see that there's less difference in the coloring. Like the High Priestess, for example, looks pretty close to the same in terms of the coloring. But some of these other ones, like for example, the Empress, it looks like in the new version, the saturation has been bumped up a bit. So definitely some kind of graphic designer or, you know, image person, I have no idea what kind of person that would be, but went through and did make some changes. So, you know, the Emperor here you can see as well is definitely darker in the new edition. And there are some times, for example, like in the Emperor, I think I prefer the old one because I think the new one is a little darker and it's a little harder to see some of the detail. But, you know, generally speaking, the Pope here it's a little bit different. It's a bit more saturated in the new version, but it's not hugely different. And then the Lovers looks, again, very similar in this case. Again, maybe a little bit more saturated in the new edition, but not so much that it makes a giant difference. So it's really interesting to see how some of these look like they've been changed and other ones not so much. The Chariot looks relatively similar. Again, just a little more saturated in the new edition. Here's Justice. Here's the Hermit. In this case, it looks like the new version has maybe been sharpened a little bit. You can see some of the outlines of the bricks a little bit more clearly in this version. The Wheel of Fortune, again, definitely a little more saturated. This would be an example of one where I think I prefer the original because I think that the new version has been made a little bit obscured by the increasing the saturation and darkening the image. Now the Hanged Man, in contrast, I think the new one is very nice. It looks clearer, it looks brighter, and I think it's easier to see what's going on. So this is just really interesting to me. I mean, there, you know, definitely the cards are a little bit different, but you know, it's really hard to say that one version of this deck definitely wins out over the other one in terms of how it looks. They're both beautiful. Here's Temperance. I can see very little difference in Temperance. The Devil, it looks like the new one's been brightened up a little bit, actually, so you can see some of the details a little more clearly. Oopsies. Here's the Tower. I've always loved this Tower with the broken glass and the masks. Again, brightened up a little bit in the new version. The Star. Oh, this deck is so beautiful. It's so special. The Moon, again, I feel like the contrast has been bumped up in the new edition, so you can see things a little more clearly, I think. Here's the Sun card, darkened a little bit, a little more saturated. Here's Judgment. This one has always amused me how it has Jack in the Boxes on the desk. And, you know, when you think about the traditional Judgment card and people popping out of their coffins, that's what it always makes me think of, and I find that quite amusing. So here is the World, and again, I think this new edition is a little bit brightened, but they both look great. All right, so here is the Staves Suit. So that is what we call the Wands suit in this deck. And again, I think that there's definitely been some increases to the contrast and the saturation in the new version. The borders, and like one cool thing about this deck is that there are different color borders on each of the suits, so it's very easy to kind of distinguish the suits from each other when you're looking at the cards. But there's definitely sort of a richer color to this one, and this one looks a little bit greener in comparison. And again, this is the original and this is the new. Here is the Two of Staves and the Three. Here's the Four and the 5, the 6, the 7, the 8, the 9. Here are some that these two look very different. This is significantly darker. It looks like it's had the contrast bumped up, and it's a little less green. It's a little bit richer in color. Again, though, they're really both beautiful. I mean, it's, you know, it's not like one is significantly more beautiful than the other, significantly more usable, significantly easier to see. I mean, they're basically just slightly different. Here is the Page of Staves. One of the things that I absolutely love about this deck is the way that there's a theme in the court cards where the elemental associations of the different court levels are brought into how the different courts are depicted. And the other great thing about the courts is that they all have this little sort of face in the middle. There's like a little mirror with a sort of ghostly reflection of a face in the middle of all of them. And I love that about the courts in this deck. So the pages are basically all depicted as mausoleums because pages are associated with earth. So in this case, we have Earth of Fire. So we have the mausoleum for the Page of Wands. And you can see that there's dragons, you know, there's various fiery animals. There's some torches up at the top, spears, but again, it is a mausoleum. So there is that earth influence as well. And the knights are all fireplaces. I will say from an elemental standpoint, these are the elemental associations with the courts that I personally use and prefer, where the knights are fire and the kings are air. That's actually not the traditional Golden Dawn association, where the kings are actually knights and they are fire, and then what we would think of as being a knight is actually air. In this case, we've got, you know, pages earth, knights fire, so they're depicted as fireplaces, queens water, kings air. And again, that is personally the elemental associations that make more sense to me and that I tend to use. And so that's another reason why I really love this deck. But again, you can see we've got this sort of ghostly face in the middle. We've got dragons, red flowers, you know, very much a sort of wandsy look to this fireplace. Here is our queen. Our queen is a fountain. So again, we've got water of fire here, and I just love this deck so much. And kings are all windows. So I love this. We've got horn, we've got sun, we've got birds that I think look like phoenixes. And yeah, it's just such a cool deck in terms of the way that he created all of these cards from interiors. So here is our Ace of Cups, and you can see all of our cups have a much bluer cast and they have sort of blue in the borders. Here is our Two of Cups. Here is our Three of Cups, and I like this. It's 3 chimney pots, and you can see that there's a little family of storks in one of them, which I really love as the 3. Here is the Four of Cups. And I've always liked this. It's beer steins with a cover on them. So there is that sense of, you know, separation of, you know, not sort of maybe being interested in what's in the cups in the 4. And here's our Five of Cups, which is, again, it's kind of a mausoleum surrounded by water. Very, very sad looking. Here's our beautiful 6. And our 7. And hopefully you're seeing, you know, the differences in coloration. I mean, there's definitely a difference for sure. And again, I can't honestly say that one is more beautiful than the other one. They're both lovely. So I'd say that the original version definitely feels overall greener than the new one. So we got our 8, our 9 of Cups here. We've got our 10. Oh, I love this deck so much. Here's our Page of Cups. Again, we've got the mausoleum here. We've got turtles because it is, again, earth of water. There's a little pool. Here is our Knight of Cups. We've got dolphins and other watery animals. Our Queen of Cups is so beautiful. Again, some sort of medieval looking dolphins. And here's our King of Cups. So this is air of water. So we've got swans up there. Just, I love this deck so much. All right, here's our Ace of Swords. and our Two of Swords, our Three of Swords, our Four of Swords. Something I should point out about the swords as well, and this is also true in the Staves Suit. There are the Marseille symbols for that particular card kind of hidden in the artwork. Like if I go back to the 3 here, you can see as well, there's the Three of Swords right there. Same in the 2. So, and it's kind of cool. It's just sort of very softly hidden. Here's the Five of Swords. Here we've got the Six of Swords, symbols right there. Here's the Seven of Swords. The Eight of Swords. I just adore this deck. Here we have the Nine of Swords. This again, I think is the one card, aside from the sort of ghostly faces in the quartz that are sort of reflected in mirrors or maybe part of a painting. It's a little hard to tell, but the 9 here, this is kind of the only place where you see a person. And the 10 of Swords in this deck is rough stuff, as you can see. We've got a razor blade, we've got a note, we've got blood on the walls, so you guys can draw your own conclusions there. All right, so here is our Page of Swords. So this is Earth of Air. Just such a beautiful deck. Here is our Knight of Swords. Here is our Queen of Swords. I love the harps and the flamingos. And here is the King of Swords with the butterflies and peacock feathers and Air of Air for sure. Oops. Somehow I managed to, I guess there's 2 cover cards, and when I was reorganizing this to put the suits in the right order, I didn't realize that there was a second one here. And so, yeah, I guess there's 2 sort of, 2 cards telling Neil's story and as sort of a tribute to his memory. So, whoops, should have both been on the top, but I screwed up because I tried to put the new deck in order of how I usually like to have the suits in order, which is Wands, Cups, Swords, Pentacles, and I didn't notice that. But anyway, here is our Ace of Coins and our Two of Coins. So like this one, for example, is pretty close to exactly the same. I mean, you know, there's a real variation in terms of how much change has been done to the cards in terms of the coloration. Here's the 4. Here's the 5. Here's the 6. The 7. The 8. The 9. The 10. I've always liked how this has the Tree of Life arrangement of the 10 coins. And here is the Page. So we've got Earth of Earth here, literally a wheelbarrow. And the Knight. And here's the Queen. Earth of Water. So we've got frogs. And the King. I'm going to shuffle them both now just so that you can see how they shuffle. I'm pretty sure that they will both, I mean, I know this one shuffles beautifully. I'm pretty sure the new version will shuffle beautifully as well. It is, you know, really lovely cardstock. And yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. So that's the old version shuffle. And again, the new version is a little bit thicker, but it'll need to be broken in a little bit, but it still shuffles very beautifully. It has that nice sort of slippery matte finish. And yeah, it's definitely stiffer than the old version, but as you would work with it, it would definitely break in and shuffle really beautifully. So wow, you know, to be perfectly honest, I am thrilled to have both of them. I am thrilled that this wonderful deck is back in print. It's an absolute treasure, and I can't recommend this deck more highly if this is the kind of artwork that you're interested in. You know, it's a really wonderful deck. It gives you some unique ways of working with the tarot, and if you're interested in things like pathworking or, you know, any kind of work with the tarot that involves something like traveling into the card or, you know, experiencing the card in terms of physical surroundings, this is such an ideal deck to do that with, and it's really, really wonderful. It has a feel like no other. I'm so glad it's back in print, and honestly, I think both editions are stunning. They're different, but I can't say that one is definitely more beautiful than the other or has some sort of specific advantage over the other one. I think that if you had always wanted the original version, you will in all likelihood be just as happy with the new version. You know, some of the coloration is a little bit different, but I don't think it's any more or less beautiful. I think it's just a little bit different. And I think that the gilding is beautiful, the cardstock is beautiful, the box is super nice. So honestly, I have no quarrels with anything that was done in this new edition of the Tyldwick. I'm just glad it's back out there in the world. So I hope you all enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was helpful. If you are interested in doing a tarot reading with me, you can find a link to my shop and website down in the description box below, as well as links to my Instagram, my Facebook page, all that good stuff. And thanks again so much, everybody. Have a great one. Bye-bye.